すぐ戻ります。
No, you won't. Stop the cap. Let's drink apple cider to that Wonder Egg Priority special. There are spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen Wonder Egg Priority episodes 1 through 7, 9 through 12, and the second half of episode 13, or this special episode, then I would click off this video now. But if you don't really care that much about spoilers, then I'm gonna make this interesting and entertaining for you as well. Now, I know this ending made a lot of people upset. Wonder Egg Priority is really, really important in the hearts of many around the world, and the expectations for this final episode were so high that it could be really, really easy to be a disappointment. And for many of you, it was. If you look at Reddit, if you look at Twitter, there's just people who are really, really upset with this. And I was one of them when I first saw it. I mean, it was riddled with animation issues, unresolved questions, and all kinds of things that just didn't really suit the viewer. I mean, take a look at this meme by YouTuber I Ate My Pants. It summarizes it pretty well.
That's the last episode? That was just a bunch of cheap walk cycles!
I will link his channel in the description if you want to check it out. With all that being said though, I think that most people missed the point. It wasn't about answering every question. It was about resolving the main character's journey. Have you wondered why the special opened with a close-up of Nayru and ended with I talking about Nayru? Wonder Egg Priority Episode 13 is about I moving on from her old best friend Koito in order to fight for her new best friend, Nayru. After the girls save their person, no one knows how that's going to affect their reality. At least for I, things started off pretty normally, who runs into Nayru at the very beginning. But little did she know that this was the beginning of an awful day. Before school, I receives a suspicious text from Nayru asking her to take care of the rat, Adam. Now, this might seem pretty random. I mean, it did to me at first. But if you look at it, Adam is the rat that was Kotobuki's at first. And Kotobuki gave Nayru the rat right before she went off to essentially kill herself by putting her in a chamber where she can no longer wake up. Now, that Nayru is giving I the rat, she's thinking, wait a minute, are you gonna do the same thing? Are you gonna disappear and I'm never gonna see you again? Is she going to abandon me like Kotobuki abandoned her? While she's processing all of this stuff, Koito walks past her in her school. I finally gets to see her best friend once again, and it's gonna go well, right? Wonder Egg Priority is known for its heartwarming moments, right? But unfortunately, not only does Koito forget about her, but she starts to bully her. It's the opposite of when I betrayed Koito by not recording the evidence that she asked I to record, but more on that later. At the moment, I is being bullied by her old best friend, and I doesn't know what to do but run away because that's what she usually does when she's scared, and it hurts her so much. So we have I standing here in the rain. After risking her life, she's forgotten by her first friend. And with no explanation, she's abandoned by her new friend with the deadly memento. All of that leads up to this scene, which perfectly demonstrates her internal suffering. I cannot tell you how much I love this scene. I mean, look at this. She's trying to keep her composure by resisting the temptation to throw her phone, but she can't. She's like, I have to keep it together. I have to be strong. But then she loses it. She just throws her phone on the pavement anyway because it's just so painful for her to deal with. This is such a good demonstration of the amount of pain that she is going through, and the day has only just begun. Even after feeling so neglected, she visits Nayru's place to see where she is. Why didn't she call her other friends, Momo and Rika? Ai has a stronger connection with Neiru as a friend, especially since she helped her shut down Kotobuki in episode 9. Imagine how much of a bond you would have if you accompany your friend to pretty much put your old best friend to rest. Back to episode 13, even when Ai visits Neiru's home, she gets rejected by Neiru's now alive sister. If you were forgotten, ignored, and rejected all in the same day, how would you feel? On first viewing, the karaoke scene kind of feels out of nowhere. I mean, we are seeing Ai go through all of this emotional trauma, and then boom, she's just like singing karaoke. Where did Momo and Rika come from? They didn't even show her calling them. She's with her friends here, right? The friends who helped her fight Sino evils and watched random people disappear. Her friends who suffered so much with her. So when I told Momo and Rika about how Neiru didn't want to see her, you would think they would all want to go together to get Neiru back. But when Momo was asked to help, she said that she doesn't want to get hurt. In her defense, I mean, watching Manen die and then looking at this creepy thing would leave anybody scared. I get it, but still, Momo not wanting to go to Neiru's place with Ai and Rika means that she gave up on both Neiru and their group bond. Rika stays though, and that touched my heart. That would have been really depressing if both Rika and Momo just like pieced out in that scene. I would have been so depressed. After that, I get a call from Tanabe, who tells her that the real Neiru actually went missing and that she has some information to share. After watching the clip that shows Neiru's last dream, they discover that Neiru is actually a robot, and she was made in the likeness of Airu, who is her little sister. Rika, when she finds this information, instead of being sympathetic and trying to understand the situation, she says, "I don't want to die for a machine." And she leaves. Given the story that Akka and Uraaka told about Frill, I understand her reservations about Neiru. That being said, Rika as well, when she chose to leave Ai and leave Neiru, she's choosing to give up on Neiru and their group bond. Little by little, this group of people who were fighting together are drifting apart. Beyond Momo not wanting to get hurt and Neiru being a machine, fear is ultimately what motivates their actions. We're gonna get to it later, but Ai is not excused from running from her fears, but we're gonna hit on that later. After seeing these things catapulting you into an endless despair and then waking up to a reality with your loved ones finally alive but who no longer love you, would create an overwhelming despair. It is understandable to abandon your friends for your own self-preservation. Just want to put that out there. But in the end, facing death proved to be too much for Momo and Rika to stick with their group. This leaves Ai all alone. Now, a lot of people have been making memes about this image when Ai throws her phone off the balcony. I think that means that I should drink some apple cider. Yeah, I had a bit of whiplash the first time I saw this too, because there wasn't any context to build up to this scene. How do you go from desperately calling Neiru to not only ignoring her calls, but chucking your phone out of the window? But I want to explain. Here's what happened. Look at what I may have thought. If Airu committed suicide because Neiru is just a better version of herself, that changes things. I may have thought that Nairu's perfection was what killed her sister, making Nairu's creation toxic. Therefore, Nairu's very existence drove her human likeness to commit suicide. If that's the case, is Neiru really a good person? Why didn't Neiru tell Ai that she was an AI? See what I did there? You see, a lot was going through her head, and she couldn't process all the information all at once. The mental stress of trying to grasp Naidu's true identity is what drove her over the edge to throw her phone off the balcony. Koito has forgotten her and bullied her openly. Momo is too afraid to get hurt and rejects their bond of friendship. Rika doesn't want to die for a machine, also rejects their bond of friendship. Naidu has been a machine that killed her sister. And now, Ai is all alone. Next scene, we see Ai bawling on her mother's lap. This is just a theory, but I'm pretty sure that she's regretting how she abandoned Naidu, just as her best friends had abandoned her. But what could she do? She felt stuck and lost and alone, and her mother wouldn't understand the world of eggs that contain dead humans that come back to life during the dream world. That would just sound crazy. Months go by. Ai seems to have processed things. She transfers schools as well and gets ready to start a new life. But instead, as she's walking, Ai looks at these candy machines. The same candy machines that Naidu looked at in the beginning of the episode, mind you. And in that moment, we get a flashback of all of her friends. The final person revealed in her memory is Naidu. This is the moment that Ai leaves Koito in the past and decides to fight for Naidu in her future. But I'm not done yet. The following analysis is for those of you who don't think episode 13 has any connections with the rest of the series. Before I go on though, I want to give a special thank you to Ordeal Zero, who helped me with the next part of this analysis. The pixel artist who posts some rad stuff on Twitter, go check them out. Link is in the description and I'm showing you some on screen here. Also, if you're not subscribed to my channel, go make sure to subscribe and hit that bell for more anime analyses just like this. And without further ado, let's get into the deepest part of episode 13, the last minute and a half. When Ai revs up to go to Aka's place, her pose is strikingly familiar to the one she struck in episode 1. This is actually really, really important. So I'm going to talk about this for just a moment, but then I'm going to get back and make some parallels from episode 1 and episode 13, so bear with me. When Ai entered the egg world for the first time, what was the first voice that she heard? It was the intercom. And she said, "All of you at school today, a question. What should you do if someone in your class is being bullied? You got it. The right answer is pretend not to see." Pretend not to see. What does that mean? That concept reminds me of what I did to Koito. In episodes 1 and 2, if we piece the flashback together, we figure out exactly how I betrayed Koito. Told you I'd come back to this. I discovered that her new best friend was being bullied, and Koito asked her if she could film the bullying so that she could turn in proof to the school so that it could stop. Instead of doing that, though, I backed down. She said that she was afraid of being left out. She didn't help her friend who was crying out for help from being bullied. I cared more about running away from fear than standing up for her friend. Koito, though, instead of getting angry, says it's okay with a smile. Now that we know how Koito died, in that moment where she's standing on the rooftop, I'm going to assume Koito was thinking 3 main things when she was about to jump. 1, the desire to ruin Mr. Sawaki's reputation. This could be attributed to unrequited romantic feelings or a sadistic desire to destroy male teachers' lives. From the episode itself, I couldn't really make a determination, so please let me know in the comment section what you think. The second thing is that she was feeling the pain of being bullied. Even though technically she was harassing Mr. Sawaki herself, she was still being harassed by others. And last but not least, she was feeling the pain of being abandoned by her best friend. It's this third point that could have tipped Koito over the edge to commit suicide herself. When Koito was being harassed by students for spending time with Mr. Sawaki, I just stood by and watched. She didn't stand up for her friend. Her best friend at that. Koito was abandoned. After these thoughts, she falls to her death, tragically and alone. Back to episode 1, I told you we'd get back. With immense regret, Ai shouts, "I'm tired of pretending not to see." Meaning that she's tired of running away from her fear, she's tired of running towards her own convenience, and she strikes this specific pose when she says it. This is very important for later. In episode 13, she runs again by neglecting to answer Naidu's phone call because she got scared. How could she be a robot? In that moment, she felt helpless. She wanted to resort to her old ways of just running and running and running when things get hard and she gets afraid. But she strikes this pose again in episode 13, which shows how she changed, rocking a new outfit in the same pose from episode 1 when she screamed, "I'm tired of pretending not to see. I'm tired of being okay with the bullying." She is gonna stop running. She's ready. She's changed as a character. She has had a complete character arc throughout Wonder Egg Priority. And that's why episode 13 isn't a miss. In this perspective, looking at it from Ai's point of view, episode 13 is a hit. Since Naidu left Adam with her, Ai wants to save Naidu from committing suicide now. In order to find out if she's alive or dead, she decides that the best starting place is Egg Garden. There's this song that plays called Brand New World. I've actually listened to it. Let me check how many times. 346 times, okay? So I know this song. At the end of episode 1, Brand New World plays, and we have Ai running through this field to get to the Egg Garden for the first time to save Koito. Now, in episode 13, we have the same song being played. Take a listen. There are so many connections between the end of episode 1 and the end of episode 13, and especially look at literally the last few frames, okay? So when the song ends in episode 1, we have Ai looking at Naidu. They're making that connection, foreshadowing that they're end up being closest together. And the last frame is Naidu looking away, which to me indicates that Ai needs to chase after Naidu. Ai has a lot to learn about Naidu. She's not just this warm, happy, bubbly person. She has to fight for it. And at the end, the very, very end of episode 13, we have Ai looking forward to her future to save Naidu from death. At first, it was Koito. That's how we started Wonder Egg Priority, but at the end, it's Naidu. And she's excited, she's going to fight for that. She's literally talking about fighting for Naidu in the last frame of the first episode with the same song. You have Naidu looking away, indicating that she's gonna have to fight for it. She's gonna have to fight for that relationship, which she does throughout the series, episode 9. And then we have episode 13, where she's literally talking about going to fight. So regardless of whether there is a second season or not, Ai's character arc is done. Ai's character arc is complete, right? The song ties it all together. At least in my opinion, like, literally, episode 13 did a good job in closing Ai's character arc. Maybe there were a lot of questions. Like, there were a couple weird things, like especially when Ai was running away from Koito, like that looked a little bit wonky. But you gotta give the team a break. They wrote a story. They wrote a story about Ai, and I think that they did a really, really good job on that. Sorry, I totally ranted. I went off script there. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, I'm gonna go back to my script. Wonder Egg Priority is primarily a show about Ai finding her new world of facing fear. She moved on from the death of her best friend, and chose to fight for her new best friend, Naidu. One Direct Priority is about moving on. It's about Ai's story of coming to terms with her reality and facing death. And Ai is the one who ends up being triumphant, who stands up and is willing to fight for what she loves and is willing to look in the mirror and figure out what her true convictions are. She found out that she loves Naidu and she wants to be with Naidu regardless of whether she's a machine or not. And she feels the regret of the abandonment that she put Koito through. She didn't want Naidu to have to go through that same suffering. So, all in all, I think episode 13 did a great job. I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. For longtime fans of the channel, you already know what time it is. If you're new to the channel, I got this thing called a trash tight beat that's going to be coming up in here in like just a second. And a dance. Let's get it. It's time for that trash tight beat. Let's go! I want to give a special thank you to my patrons, Duzzy and Sazukai82. Thank you guys so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you guys would like to join them, link is in the description. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that button. You're going to be able to get more awesome anime reviews just like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have an excellent, excellent day.